Hi everybody, this is Kate Haley with Glazer's Camera here in Seattle, Washington. We'd love to thank you for joining us today. And we're going to talk about audio for getting started in vlogging. Not blogging, but vlogging. We're going to do that with Rode today. But before we get started, I'll just take a moment to tell you how we're functioning right now during the COVID pandemic craziness that we're all experiencing. Our store is open Monday through Saturday. Monday through Friday, our hours are 9 to 6. On Saturdays, it's 9 to 5? Or actually, we're open till 6.
Starting this Sunday, we're noon to 5.
Okay, so starting this Sunday, we're actually open 7 days a week again. So Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays 9 to 5, and Sundays 12 to 5. So that means you can come in and browse for the photo gear of your choice. You can also place your orders online and do curbside pickup, or we can ship things to you. So all the options available. Our rentals department is also open, but that is open for curbside pickup only, Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. So if you need to rent something, please call them, book your rental, and then you'll come by to pick it up when is convenient. So with all that in mind, like I said, today we're going to talk about getting started with audio and vlogging. So tools that you might need if you're interested in starting your own vlog. With video, audio is a very major component, so sounding good on camera is a great way to keep people listening to you and your content. So with that said, we're going to introduce Ryan White, who works with Rode. So Ryan, can you tell us just a little bit about you? And then I'll have one more brief announcement before we get started.
Absolutely. Kate, thanks so much for having me. It's very cool to be back and talking about blogging today. It's one of my favorite topics, just real quick, to talk about real quick. And so I'm the US product specialist for Rode microphones. Before the pandemic, I traveled the whole US just teaching everybody about the Rode microphones, what they're capable of, what's available to you. And I go around from retailer to retailer, or I have actually done colleges, schools, various things like that, to just teach everybody how to use these microphones. So that's what we're going to do today as well. So I'm happy to be here.
And we appreciate having you here. I know that you have a couple of big fans and a couple of people in the room right now. There's only 2 of us in the room. That's me and Devin, and both of us use your products for our own projects, both with Glazers and outside of Glazers. With that said, if you have questions about the content that we're going to talk about today, please post those in the comments on the Facebook Live video or on our YouTube channel, and we'll get to as many of those as we can through the session. This is a short session. We're scheduled for only half an hour, so I think we have maybe 15 to 20 or so minutes of content from Ryan, and then we'll do wrap it up with any questions. That's not to say we might take a question or 2 throughout, but with that said, Ryan, I'm going to let you kick it off, and let's dive into the content.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kate. Appreciate it. So I'm going to share my screen real fast. We've got a little bit of a presentation, and you should be seeing that now. Need the play button. There it is. So again, I'm the US product specialist for Rode microphones. And if you're not familiar, Rode is actually an Australian company. We're out of Sydney, Australia. Been down there a couple different times. Those guys are absolutely amazing at what they do. The development all the way through the manufacturing and just keeping the high quality with the affordable prices is amazing. After that, today we're going to talk, and I'm going to try to get through these as fast as humanly possible and give a little bit of time for questions. But first and foremost, audio quality, it's a huge factor in vlogging. Most people just kind of put the camera in front of them best they possibly can and hope for the best. So I'm going to show you a few techniques to kind of maximize that, show you a few of the video mics. I want to talk specifically about polar patterns, how to make them work, and then picking your capsule type for whatever you're shooting. And if we got a little bit of time, I'm going to teach you a little bit about setting that up inside your camera to maximize the quality. So the first one I want to introduce is the most popular for this space. It's kind of obvious as to why. The VideoMic Me L and the VideoMic Pro, both the exact same microphones inside. Obviously a slight difference in the connectors and how you're going to connect them to your camera. So the micro is going to be for a DSLR or like an external recorder, and then your VideoMic Me Ls or VideoMic Me's are going to be straight into your Android or iPhones, your smart devices. So really easy to plug and play and run and gun, just like many vloggers are going to do. Not only that, it's got a directional capsule on it. So I mentioned polar patterns. This is that. So a directional microphone is how I kind of simplify it. It's pointing that way, right? Directly in front of you, and it cancels behind you. So the whole goal of that, like this directional microphone in front of me, is to capture me and to reduce as much as humanly possible behind me so that you don't hear those other noises. If you look at the picture in the presentation, you'll notice that gentleman is just holding it arm's length, 3 feet, perfect distance, and then it's going to cancel out and do its best to reduce everything behind that. It's not a magical solution. If you stop talking, you're going to hear those things around you and so forth, but it's trying to minimize that as much as humanly possible. The other option is what we call a shotgun microphone. Most of you are probably familiar with that. And this is the rest of the Rode VideoMic line other than the stereos, which I'm going to talk about. But a shotgun microphone is also what's known as a supercardioid. So again, polar pattern, it's going to let a little bit of audio in from the back. If you look at that pattern, think of it like you're looking at the top of that microphone. So if this was the microphone, it would actually cancel more from this side instead of directly behind the microphone. So with a shotgun microphone, the thing we're trying to go for is actually a pinpoint accurate area in front of the microphone. So that gentleman that's holding that microphone up in that particular scenario is trying to pull himself more out of the audio that's around him, cancel more from the sides. So that's a big thing to focus on when you're talking about a shotgun versus cardioid. And that's that it's going to cancel from the sides on a shotgun and from the back on a cardioid pattern microphone. Very important things to look at when you're thinking about how you're going to set up your shot and so forth. Couple more inside the VideoMic line. We have the regular. We have the Pro Plus. Now, right between the regular and the Pro Plus is the first version of the Pro, and it's still around. You still have that option. And then the VideoMic NTG is the very brand new solution here. The coolest thing about the new VideoMic NTG is it's actually going to add a USB feature to it as well. So the other microphones were all what's called analog. So you plug them into your camera, a voltage goes into that camera, and you record that. With the VideoMic NTG, you can still do that. It comes with a cable that's TRRS, and it will self-detect whether you're plugged into a phone, whether you're plugged into a camera, a recorder, or you can actually plug it in USB right into your computer and then do a voiceover later or whatever you might want to do to add something to your vlog in post. So it's a very, very, very versatile microphone. So I wanted to show you that one. All of those microphones I just showed you there have a bunch of features on top of them. We won't dive too deep into them today unless we get that question at the end. But a high pass filter is huge. You got to be able to roll that off, as we call it, and get rid of the low frequencies. Very quick solution for getting rid of wind, air conditioner noise, etc. The other thing that the higher end of the VideoMic line adds is what's called a preamp. So if you look at that image right there, you got a 0 level, and then above that you got a +20. That +20 allows me to turn up the microphone before it ever gets to the camera. That way we can reduce the influence of the camera on the audio, let Rode microphones handle a higher quality audio while we let the camera just be the camera as best as we possibly can while still plugging directly into it. The beauty of actually plugging directly into the camera is that you don't have to sync it later. It's actually just embedded into the video. So if you can use tools like this to maximize your results right from the recording, huge, huge bonus. So if you're out there running, you want some of these buttons to actually be able to push in scenarios where you have to get rid of those bad things. So those previous pictures of the gentleman out there on the water, if a boat runs by behind that microphone, you want to use the polar pattern for, say, a cardioid microphone to cancel out behind that microphone, and then maybe a roll-off to get rid of those lower frequencies that are just really going to be detrimental to your recording. And as I talk right now, there's a giant truck driving by my window, and I think if you can hear that, I did a roll-off inside of this, and if you can't hear it, that is because I did that roll-off. So I will find out later. But that's what you want for those tools. You want those tools available to you. Real quick on the stereo video mics, I get this question a lot. What is a stereo video mic mostly for? And my general rule of thumb for this is music and B-roll. So if for your vlog, you're trying to capture a couple things, either live in an event or a venue, out on the street, something like that, you want that left to right motion. What a stereo video mic does is take two of those directional, those cardioid pattern microphones, and turn them to where you have a left and a right image inside your camera. So if I actually had that truck drive right by me, I would actually hear it go from left to right as my camera did that. So it's a very powerful setup for ambience and music, capturing the scene that you're in. I got to tell you the downside to some of these things too. The cardioid or directional microphones are going to not give you a stereo image. It's not going to emulate the way we hear as humans. In a vlog, that's typically okay. Number one in a vlog is going to be dialogue. So that's what those microphones capture. The stereo microphones are more for ambience. So they're going to let a lot more of that room in. If you use it for ambience and dialogue, you got to get ready for your dialogue to actually have more of that ambience in the recording. And that leads me to, let me come back to that extra real fast. I want to touch on this. The ELECTRET condenser microphones are inside of the VideoMic line. All you need to know about a condenser microphone, some of you may have heard this, it's a hypersensitive microphone. So whatever you put in front of it is going to be captured. I'm actually on a dynamic microphone right now, which, like I was talking about earlier, may have been getting rid of some of that stuff in my scene as we were doing this presentation. So a dynamic microphone is less sensitive, and it allows you to actually reduce some of that stuff, but you have to be close to that microphone. Whereas with that, let me go back here, with the ELECTRET condensers in the VideoMic line, you're going to be way more sensitive. So in the stereo microphone, with it being 2 condenser microphones, it's going to capture all of that stuff very easily, and it's going to be a wider image with 2 microphones. So you got to be cautious of that when you dive into that. Few extras that I have to touch on, right? Wireless microphones. It's a huge upgrade if you have both the budget, the time, the setup, and otherwise. If it's just you on a vlog and you want to get away from the camera and actually not have it at arm's length or not have to worry about a cable, a wireless microphone is number one. Dialogue is the most important thing. A wireless lavalier is going to be the first upgrade that you can have if you're by yourself. Now, a few downsides is you can't have necessarily 2 people running at the same time. You could go into a recorder and sync that in post later, or you could actually pass a microphone back and forth. So the Rode Reporter or our filmmaker kit our news shooter kit would actually work as a wireless handheld microphone that you could actually pass around, or you could put it on a boom pole. Depends on how extravagant of a setup you want. All very viable solutions inside of a vlog, depending on how much professionalism and level you want to get to. Quick shout out to the SmartLav Plus as well to do the same thing with a wired connection right into a smartphone. So if you're going straight to Facebook Live or otherwise using your phone as your camera, SmartLav Plus or any kind of cable like that, TRRS will help with those smart devices. So external recorders can be synced to your camera, but for the most part, those are typically going to be after the fact. So if you're recording your vlog and then posting it later, those are great preamps. So incredibly professional preamps to add to your video later. So we talked a little bit about capsule and so forth. On the setup, so right now I'm using a Lumix GH4 to stream this, and inside that camera, this particular model that I have in the presentation is a Canon. I think that was a 5D or something to that level. You'll notice that sound recording, you can actually disable it, turn it to auto, or turn it to manual. The big thing here is always, always, always manual. The Lumix GH4 doesn't even give you the chance to do auto. It just says turn the level to what you want. I aim for an 80% level. So in the case of Canon, you'll see a 40 at the far left, a 12, and a 0. The 12, magically, is about 80% of that meter. When you see those levels just jumping up towards 0, you want your average to just be swinging around that 12. What that does for us is gives us enough room above 12 to 0 before it actually hits 0. So in the digital world, which all these cameras are these days, 0 is red, you're dead. You hit the red, you're going to get this distortion and this bad audio, and it's just going to sound horrible. You don't want to go too low at the same time. So you turn down the camera, you better make sure that the microphone can compensate for that. That's why I was mentioning in the VideoMic line, you have the preamp boost so that you can actually turn it up to a good level before it does it. So turn the camera down as low as you can without turning it off, and turn the microphone up as high as you can without it distorting. If you actually get too hot with that plus 20, you can actually then just back it down to 0 and then fine tune with the camera. Keep the camera as low as possible, microphone as high as possible, and you're aiming for 80% on your levels on manual mode. It's crucial. You'll have the best time if you can actually get that, practice it a couple times, and you'll be a pro, no problem. Kate, that's all I have as far as that's concerned. Kind of blew through it. I'm curious if we have any questions as of yet, or do I need to revisit some of those points?
Well, we got a what up from Brian Covarrubias, who's down in Cali, who who works with Westcott.
Absolutely.
So right now we don't have any questions that have come in. We've got someone who's joined us from Guatemala, which is
excellent.
awesome.
Hello.
Oscar, who's following the YouTube feed. That went way faster. I'm not prepared.
Oh no, that's totally cool. You know, I blew through that,
Yeah,
and
you totally did.
The screen actually doesn't have me have the time up there, so I probably should have just had my phone over here. When I hit record, I always kind of put it off the side. That was maybe 10 minutes there. I think that's a record for me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like 12:18 right now, so we definitely have a little room to play around with. Do you have any? So I know. It's funny you were talking about the Smart Lav Plus. I have a Smart Lav. That was my first Rode product. That when I've been doing videos and things like that with iPhones for a number of years, and I was just telling Devin that when Instagram stories started out, I would actually plug that lav into my phone. So when I was talking over an Instagram story, the audio would just sound much better instead of picking up all that ambient noise in the background. So I know that's like, I still use that today, even though I don't have a headphone jack in my phone. So I use my little adapter to make that work. But I've also been able to use that on my laptop for other projects, which is really cool with like certain little adapters that you can get. So there's a lot of great options. We have a handful of folks watching us today, so I don't have any questions per se. Do you have like maybe a couple of other tips that might come into mind for if you wanted to get started with vlogging? Like, have you done vlogging yourself yet? I don't know. Let's just take a minute and just maybe chat a little bit, and then we can wrap it up. We'll wrap it up a little bit early. Not too early, because we only planned for this to be 30 minutes anyway. So.
That's true. That's true. And I would have totally, I thought I had way less on there, but that's okay. So as far as vlogging, I personally have done some of my own, I've had vacations and different things like that where I've actually streamed. I haven't streamed it live. I've actually recorded it and then edited it in post and then added it to different things later. So it really depends on the type of vlog that you're doing. When you're doing a live vlog, right to YouTube, right to Facebook, the most crucial thing I can tell you is to have your audio tested prior to your stream, right? I mean, with everybody doing Zoom right now, you know as well as I do that everybody things kind of go weird, right? A presentation goes too fast, or a camera stops working, or you lose a connection, you lose internet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when you're doing a live stream, one of my favorite tests for a microphone, let's go back to your Smart Lav. iPhones, Androids, just phones in general are fickle at best, right? They may not recognize that microphone being plugged in. They may recognize the microphone being plugged in, and then you open two apps and all of a sudden it's fighting over which one it's using. The Mac computers versus Windows computers actually do the same thing when you're just using the headphone port, not using like an audio interface or something like that. So you best test is to actually plug it in. Oh, let me reset. I always like to just completely shut down my phone, restart. It's that whole turn it off, turn it back on again before you even start. And before I load any applications, I will actually plug in the Smart Lav Plus, and then I'll open up the app. So if you're using Facebook, the first thing I do is plug in that microphone, and then I open Facebook. The goal of that is to make sure that your phone recognizes the microphone before you actually open the application. If you have the application open and then plug in the microphone, think of it this way: the application has to also recognize the new addition, right? And that sometimes can either freak out a computer, freak out a microphone, freak out a phone, and then the software just decides it's not going to use it. So the whole time, let's say you're using an extension cord or a wireless microphone in TRRS to plug into your phone, you may be using it at 15 feet away and not even realize that it's using the microphone that's built into the phone, and not the microphone that you just spent all that effort or money or time on. And that's one of the most frustrating things you could ever experience. So I will take that, plug it in, open up Facebook Live, or even before I open Facebook, I'll open up the general default audio app and I'll hit record and I'll scratch the capsule. I won't talk into it. I won't say check 1, 2, 3, 4. I will just scratch it. And what that does is actually allow you to hear physically that microphone is the one that's being used instead of your internal. and then you can open up Facebook. Since it's already been recognized, it's already being used, you are confident now that it's going to default to that. Open Facebook, and on your way you go.
Well, a funny thing is I haven't really gotten into vlogging yet myself. It's something that I think about. I've been doing some YouTube tutorials, and then I also teach a lot of workshops. So some of the content that I'm building out for those are like I have a mobile photography workshop that I teach, and I will actually record do screen recordings on my phone of editing in an app or how this app works.
Right.
And the thing too, on top of making sure your mic is working, is also making sure that when you do the screen recording, it's actually set up to record the audio because on the latest OS, which is really fun when you do like an 8-minute, this is how you use this app in-depth review, and then you go to play it back and there's no audio. Because like in the screen recording, you want to make sure that it's set up to actually record the microphone, which seems so silly. But you know, I had to learn the hard way, of course. So there's a lot of little tidbits and little things you do want to consider. And you know, needing adapters if you need one. You know, the first time I went to plug my smart lav into my laptop, I was like, why doesn't it work? Well, I didn't know about the TRRS and the different combinations. So I had to get that little adapter to tell my headphone jack, hey, you're receiving a mic and then you also need to send a headphone signal. So, you know, it's just those things that we learn along the way, for sure. So
absolutely. And like you said, since we have the time to talk about that TRRS, I gotta enunciate, because that gives us so much trouble. Like I said, with the VideoMic NTG, one of the best things Rode came out with as of late is a self-detecting CPU. It's a digital microphone inside. So it actually self-detects the microphone and the recorder on the outside. So the microphone detects whether you're plugged into a TRS connection or a TRRS connection. So if you're not familiar out there, the TRRS connection has always been for smart devices, phones, tablets, computers. And the TRS is the original analog 8-inch. I mean, headphones still use it, but obviously with microphones, you're going the opposite direction. So for microphones and TRS, it's actually for cameras and external recorders. So what Rode did with the NTG is give you a 4-pin, and then it detects whether the camera is giving you 3 or 4. And then it'll switch the 4th pin off if it doesn't need it. It just literally switches which connectors are going where inside the microphone. It's a wonderful use of modern technology. The technology's gotten small enough, for one, to actually be able to fit in that size of a microphone. So really, really cool add to the VideoMic line. And if you got the budget for it, it's an incredible thing that you'll be thanking thanking yourself for getting it later, because it will kind of take that out of your list of problems, you know.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, since we had one comment from our friend who's tuning in from Guatemala, he appreciates a tip about scratching. That's super helpful. And I've done the tapping thing before, which I guess is kind of a similar idea to make sure it sounds like it's live. So with all that said, I think that we could probably go ahead and wrap up the session. We have just a few minutes left. Did you have any closing remarks about Rode or any other advice before we close out for the day?
No, I thank you very much for your time, and I hope everybody's doing well out there. Can't wait to see you guys in person again and get back out to one of you guys' amazing sales and events that you guys have going on every year.
That definitely would be fantastic. We, of course, miss seeing you guys. You guys are always such fun to work with. And we, I think like everybody, we're missing some of that, human social interaction with the whole sheltering in place and just kind of having to make sure everybody's staying safe. So we'll get there. We might be wearing masks when we do it, but we'll get there.
So true.
Yeah. So Ryan and Sean hanging out in the background, thank you so much for doing this session today. We really appreciate your time and all the great information. And thanks to everybody who tuned in and joined us, especially from such far-reaching places. So we really appreciate your time as well. Tune in tomorrow. We are going to do a session on photo mechanic with camera bits. And on Wednesday evening, we have a session with Nikon to take a peek at the new Z5. So check out our calendar at glazerscamera.com/workshops for upcoming events. And we look forward to seeing you all soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kate.